We intend to build more houses. We think that targeting about 500,000 every year for the first 4 years will go a long way. We also believe that there's need to have home improvement. It's not just building houses. A lot of people are just living in slums, and there's need for us to improve generally home environment, home improvement. So we want to invest in improving even what you have. Let's say you've got a house, you can't afford to build a place, or you have an apartment, we can put money in so that people live in better conditions. And most of that also would be to provide more money and strengthen the mortgage institutions so that also they can provide funding for people to be able to build those homes. So there's some that we will build as government, and there's some that will provide infrastructure for people to build. But the target is that if we can do 500,000 every year, it will help in reducing. If we had more money, we could be able to do more. No. Some of the funds, there are a lot of leakages in the system, right? Huge leakages in the system. I can see already easily you can crawl back close to 8 to 9 trillion. Serious leakages in the system. Yeah, huge. That will help you increasing your revenue. That's number one, right? Number two, also value for money. We must review the Bureau of Public Procurement. Sometimes don't you ask yourself that with all this money that government is spending, how come we don't see a lot of these projects really impact on people? Because the value for money, if you do a value for money audit on a lot of these projects, what you find out will be shocking. And you need to tighten those processes to ensure that a job that should cost 5 naira should really cost 5 naira. Not a job that will cost 5 naira is costing 25 naira. So you need to tighten. And when you do that, now all this leakages, excess in government expenditure will come down significantly. So you have more money to be able to do that. That's number two. Okay. Number three, also, in the infrastructure, you've got to decide on what your priorities are. Right? Things like housing have multiplier effects. You provide a home for people. You also provide jobs, because those kind of construction business, there are different other areas too that will benefit people, be engaged, be jobs for people. So you got to look at that, as opposed to some of the things that we're spending money on. And also in infrastructure, there's some areas that private sector will be able to fund it, and that government needs to put money. If you create an enabling environment called private sector, for example, when I was Senate President, I'll give you a good example, Lagos-Ibadan Road. If you go and check the news at that time, I had a lot of problems with a lot of politicians. They didn't understand what I was trying to do. We were being asked to put 30 billion in Lagos-Ibadan Road. And I said, why would we do that? Lagos-Ibadan Road is a road that private sector support, right environment. You don't need government to fund it. And they would do it. Say, no, you put it in the budget. Look now, 4 years later, still not completed. So I'm just giving you examples of, yes, you can look at port construction. That private sector also can do that, right enabling environment. So there are some infrastructure projects that would happen. You can do them. If you're first created enabling environment, bring confidence and investment. There's some as government and stuff you do. For example, in power, in the transmission sector, government, which is so important, government will have to fund that, whatever amount that is required. But those are investments that they will pay itself back in the long term. I don't think to reg the economy, but I think like any of these new sectors, you need to have guidelines and regulation. I'm not against it, but I think that we must look at it and see that it can be operated in a well-guided environment. That's key. There must be legislation and policies that ensure that there's no abuse in the process, etc. But I think it has helped, and it's helping a lot of the younger generation in creating jobs and creating opportunities. And anything that creates jobs, creates an environment that people can build their businesses, I'm in support of that. So yes, I'm not against it, but again, we just got to ensure that we can ensure that it's not abused. One of the greatest fears can be a source of money laundering, financing of terrorists, and those are issues that we must address and say that they're important. So in as much as they are good for the society, we must be also careful that they're not abused and create problems for us. Definitely. I truly believe that security is probably best provided when it's brought down to community level and at best to state. There are concerns for certain abuses when we see what happens in the environment. But that doesn't mean because of that we should not do what is right in ensuring that we improve the security at the community level. There's no doubt when you have security that has been brought down to the local and state level, the type of people that are recruited, the kind of relationship that they have with the community, security improves. It's so difficult now to centralize the issue of policing, and that's what we're seeing. Most people tell you they're not against it. Their fear is the abuse. And my view is that surely we can have laws and ensure that people are held accountable for those abuses and find a way to work around it. We can't just allow just one thing, the fear of the abuse. What about the people who are losing lives every day due to the inefficiency of the way the structure is? Presently, it's clear that the structure now is not working. The security architecture now for that, and we must review it. So I am very open to it. We try to push it, as you rightly said, in the 8th National Assembly. Unfortunately, what I found out that those that were against it were just a phobia of the unknown. Not that, if you ask them why don't you, one of the concerns is that those states that have more money, more revenue will be safer. The states that don't have, it means that security in those areas will be compromised. Those are things that we can bring to the table and discuss to ensure that every state, no matter its resources, there is a minimum amount of standard of security or police support that will happen. One of the things I said is that the style and leadership is very, very important. It's key. A lot of the challenges that we're seeing, I think that are challenges that could have been handled in a different manner and have got different results for. Where people are not held accountable. One of the problems a lot of people argue about this administration is that despite all these years of insecurity, loss of lives, and etc., how many people truly have been held accountable and responsible for some of this? For instance, the more you have less of that, the kind of problems that you see, I would do differently, that people would be held accountable and be responsible. Those who are definitely carry out those kind of actions will, again, as I said, will be hard to face the law. And that's not happening now. That's number one. Number two also is the fact that a lot of men and women of the security agencies are not well compensated. They're not well trained. There's poor collaboration of intelligence among the agencies. They don't work very well together. We are not using technology as we should be in the area of the security. And also, fortunately too, it's clear that there is issues of, there's an economy that has been built up. People are benefiting from it. And that must stop. And the only way that must stop is that the leadership you provide must take a hard stance in order to be able to prevent that. That's why I said, when I'm going back to my speech again, I said that I am, by my experience, I'm well positioned to be able to use my experience for the benefit of the country. Hasn't been somebody who's been on the executive and also headed the legislative arm of government. When I become president, who will become, definitely the relationship with National Assembly will be totally different. Hasn't been somebody who understands the way it happens. That kind of collisions, you will not see it. I say that we do things. Like now, most governments, like this current government, the previous governments, you see the emphasis is on cabinet meetings, Friday, Wednesday. That's a military hangover in a democratic setting like this. Your emphasis should even be more on your engagement with the Congress, with National Assembly. How often do you see leadership of National Assembly actually having dialogue or engagement with the executive arm of government? It hardly happens. You might see the speaker going one day or the Senate president. That's not the National Assembly. It's the leadership that is the National Assembly. And that's where you discuss issues. When you want to create an enabling environment for investment, it's not executive orders that will give confidence to private sector. It is a law, it's legislation that is key. So the relationship of how our work with national is totally different from now. And that is what is going to give the confidence on the investment side, and it will ensure also on the security side that we will get better results. Well, I don't think that you can just have a one policy that applies to all. You need to look at each case and look at what the issues. It has been shown over the past that you can't just use one approach to fight an issue like this. And I think we need to accept that. All over the world where you have terrorism, it's just not one approach. You've got to have multiple type of approaches in dealing with that.
So if you become president, you would not mind granting amnesty to the ones who feel like they're repented?
I cannot say that now because I need to see what the issues are at the time. That's the point I'm making. That's because these are very sensitive issues, and I don't want to also sectionalize it, which is where you are going. So I need to be careful with the words I choose. That's not what is important. What is important is that people are dying, people are being kidnapped, and you can't, as a leader who's looking for a solution, close your eyes to any options. Because what is important to you now is to save people's lives and put an end to this. And when you want to do that, you've got to look at the issues now. I think that those issues or those decisions become clearer when you're really faced with reality, what's on ground. Because as you know, security is not something that information is out there for people to be. It's not like the economy that we all, those in government and those outside government, we're all sharing the same information. And security is not exactly like that. But what I said is that I will work every day and ensure that we put an end to being the world's capital for kidnapping, to be a place where people cannot leave their homes and go back home safe. They will get home safely. That's not the kind of Nigeria we all want. And one will work hard to put, and I think it's doable because I believe that we have men and women of the security force who are competent. We have, like in today's world, the technologies that can support us. And I believe with the right kind of commitment, we will be able to put an end to it. How we do that? Is it just through force? Is it through discussion? Is it through being able to see it? Because again, don't forget, sorry, one of the other points is that economy is also a factor. Hopelessness, when a lot of the youth do not have an alternative. They don't see a future for themselves. So one of the important things that we need to do is to ensure that they do have an alternative. So as you're fighting insecurity, you must create an option for them, alternative for them for what they can do. I won't look at it like that. I look at it as what my own policies are. If my policies happen to be one of the ones they're doing, so I want to rephrase our question. Okay. The most important thing is not about what this government is doing. I'm going to sit down and say whether I'm going to continue. That's not the approach. The approach is that I have a clear mind of the kind of government we want to run. We need to address largely, most importantly, economy, ensure the economy is stable, ensure that we fight inflation, ensure we eliminate this multi-foreign exchange so that there's confidence investment, ensure that we reduce borrowing, ensure we do not borrow for consumption, ensure that we address the issue of fuel subsidy spending. 5 trillion is unacceptable. It is corruption at the highest level. We will stop that. Ensure that we create an enabling environment that support made in Nigeria goods. These are policies that we will try to bring in. And that's so that we can create jobs for our teeming youth. As we address that, we need to look at things like the health sector. How do you keep the healthy population? One of my major drives is to ensure that there's health insurance coverage for Nigerians. I promise in 2 years, 50% of Nigerians will have insurance covered, that they will not need to pay from disposable income to pay for expenses on health. On education, we would ensure everybody talks that basic primary health care is compulsory, but is it really compulsory? We still have people who are out of school. So we've got to make sure that we ensure that that law is truly implemented and see that more people do go, and then ensure that that is left to the states. Let federal government provide guidelines, standards in the level of education, improve on our tertiary institutions, ensure that they are better funded, the quality of teaching is better, We need to review and take some bold decisions on those steps. Having a country where the first 1,000 universities in the world, Nigeria is not there. That's not what it used to be in the 60s. We need to go back there because we need to start ensuring that people that go to universities and are educated for society. And that's why you have a lot of people, they are qualified, but they cannot get jobs. I think government should, there has to be some level of autonomy. You know, we really have those universities, got to let those universities survive based on capacity, based on resources, based on standards. You know, that's key. You have to, and that's the model that works. You can't, as you rightly said, talk about opening universities is that you can't fund them. When you fund them, you can't pay them the right kind of salary. You can't invest in infrastructure. They're not well built. The standards are low. That's not going to help society in trying to bring the kind of people that we want to be qualified that can now use their education to ensure that the country is a better place. So my own take is that we must have a model that allows universities to thrive. If a university can pay the best and be able to educate, government can give support. From time to time, maybe you can support their budget of those universities and see, but that would be then an incentive. There must be certain standards. You know, if you're doing well and you know you're qualifying the best students, you're having the best courses, you're having best research, then you can be able to say, okay, I will fund you and give you more money. The universities that are not doing as well, so that might create competition, and then universities try and increase their standard. But what we're seeing now, where cost of tertiary institution is even higher than sometimes cost of primary education, it's not going to work. That's not the kind of society that we want to build for ourselves. I've had the opportunity to go around the country, and from what I'm hearing from the delegates, when you talk to them and ask them what kind of president are they looking for, I hear things like they want a vibrant, they want a younger president, they want a president that understands the issues, they want a president that can unite this country because this country has never been so disunited. They want a president that can bring investment. They want a president that would have some level of experience, and they want a president that they believe be able to provide leadership. And those things that they ask for, they want, I believe that I possess some of those abilities, and I think that it's resonating. Now, I think what also has happened is that over the years, a lot of people now have moved away from I'm voting for you because this is where you come from, or I'm voting for you because this is the religions you worship, or those kind of issues. They're now looking for a Nigerian president that will make their life better. Because when you think about it, the poverty that we see now does not separate North or South. It affects all of us, or Christian or Muslim. And a lot of the delegates, they're looking for a president that will make Nigeria better. And I believe with great humility that one happens to be that candidate. As I said in my speech, it's all about now for us to talk about what we can do. If you have a female running mate that's competent, that has the qualities, the experience, why not?
So I'm going to mention 3 words and tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Like 3 phrases, so to say. 2023.
Saraki for president.
Nigerian youth.
That's the future of the country.
Okay. Ninth Assembly.
No comment.